You're listening to another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, and I'm your host, Jason Swank, where we believe that having the right systems in place is the difference between you growing or struggling with your agency. And on today's Masterclass, we have Rick, who runs a very successful agency, and he's been the agency behind a lot of really well-known brands that you might have heard of, like the George Foreman Grill and OxiClean. He started working with them from the very beginning and helped them position and market their products. So you're going to want to listen to this because we're going to cover the 5 things that you need to do to build a really successful brand. Hey, Rick, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me on today.
Definitely, man. Thanks for coming on the masterclass. So for those that don't know who you are, tell us a brief overview of what you do.
That's great. So I have an agency in Seattle called Cesari Media. We help market products and brands and help build brands through direct-to-consumer advertising, everything from TV to online and e-commerce and things like that.
Very cool. And you've worked with some really well-known brands from when they kind of started and helped really grow them. And one of the ones that I liked is the George Foreman Grill. That thing was delicious. I still need to find where my wife hid it on me so I can go cook one. But tell us a little bit about that.
That's a great product. So what happened was I had owned a company that sold juice extractors called the Juice Man Juice Extractor, and it was successful. This is a long time ago. I'm a little bit older. And we sold that company in 1993 to a Chicago housewares company called Sultan Housewares. And Sultan came back to me with 2 products and said, hey, we like the way you do marketing. Could you help us? And one was a homemade bagel maker, which didn't go anywhere. And the other one turned out to be the George Foreman Grill, although when they first presented it to me, it was called the Fajita Express, and it was designed to cook taco meat. And the reason it was slanted was so that you could put a taco shell at the edge of the table and sweep the meat into it. So we helped them reposition that and turn it into the George Foreman Grill, and then the rest is history. I think they've sold close to 30 or 40 million units since then, since it was launched.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a slant to get rid of the fat, but I never knew it was slanted to get the taco meat in. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that was the original idea. And that happens sometimes. That's part of the brand building we'll talk about, is maybe looking at the positioning of products or your agency or whatever it is you're trying to sell to people, and figure out a good way to position it in the marketplace so that you're different than everybody else.
That's cool. Very cool. So tell us, I'd like to cover kind of the 5 keys to building, a better brand. So what's number 1?
So thanks for asking. It's some of these things aren't going to be revolutionary or new, but what happened is I found things that were very consistent over the years in doing Juice Man, George Foreman Grill, Sonicare, Clarisonic, OxiClean, Rug Doctor, and all of them had some different commonalities. And one of the first ones is very important, and most of yourself and your listeners have probably heard about it, and that is you have to develop a powerful USP or unique selling proposition. And we were just talking about that. What's unique about your product or your agency or your personal brand that's different from everybody else? And that's kind of the foundation of really building a brand is how are you different? Because you're not different than everybody else. If you don't have your own brand, you're just a commodity, and then you're competing with everybody else. So this requires some thinking, some creative thinking, looking at yourself, your product, your agency. What's unique about you, or what can you offer to somebody that's different than what everybody else is doing, or positioning it in a way that's different than everybody else is doing.
Yeah. One of the ways I see agencies able to do that are through specializations or picking a particular market and really laser focusing, kind of like Exactly. How you guys are focusing on, kind of the invention products, and be like, well, like other products like the George Foreman and OxiClean and all of those, of like really picking that niche and then understanding what their biggest challenges are, understanding what they actually want. And then you can start positioning yourself to be the choice rather than a choice.
Yeah. And you just mentioned positioning, and that's the second key to building a great brand. After you have the unique selling proposition, positioning. And I always recommend people. I don't know if you've heard of this book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and it's a really good book, but it's all about kind of what the title says. How do you find your own blue ocean? You're out there with all the other fishing boats, and you want to find a place where nobody else is occupying. And for all the products that we helped build, that's what we did. A really good example of that is that when we started marketing the Juice Man Juicer, up to that time, Braun and Krups had been the main juicers in the marketplace. And they were basically German engineering companies, and they talked about having, stainless steel blades and really great craftsmanship and powerful motors. And we came out and said, hey, if you drink this juice, you'll live longer, have more energy, and have less disease. And we were selling the benefits of the product and not the features of it. And it was just a different positioning for a juicer. And that enabled that company to grow from 0 to 75 million in a little under 3 years. So I'm using examples, but you have to look at it in the context of what you're trying to accomplish with your agency.
Yeah, the positioning about selling the benefits is really the benefits for the actual user, right? So it's about changing the focus on the actual person. And I always tell people, it's all about you being the trusted advisor. And if you're the trusted advisor, like you're Alfred, you need to make that prospect or that viewer Batman, right?
Exactly.
Rather than you be Batman. Because if you just go, hey, tell me all about my agency awards and all the trophies I got, I'm like, I don't care. Is that going to generate any business for me? Heck no, it's not. So, I always joke with people saying it's kind of like that annoying person that comes up to you at a conference that just talks about themselves. Like, you're like, yes. How the heck can I get away from this guy?
You're absolutely right. And most people think, and you've probably heard lots of agency pitches and done a lot yourself. And the tendency is to go into a meeting and talk about yourself. And, one of the most powerful words in sales or copywriting is free, but the second probably is you or your. And you're talking about what can help the other person and how you can help the other person and how you can help the other company. And I think a lot of people, it's like I said, these are some of the very basic things, but I see people kind of not following them a lot. And I just make sure we're always putting them together in everything that we do.
Awesome. Cool. So what's number 3?
So number 3 is deliver more value. You had talked earlier about getting in a specific niche. If you're able to laser focus in a specific area and deliver more value to your client, your customer, whoever that is, that's one of the keys that we've always used. And I'll give you an example. I'm always, go back. I'll use the OxiClean campaign. Whenever we were selling a tub of OxiClean, and by the way, we made the very first infomercial with Billy Mays. And Billy was one of the great pitchmen of all time. But one of the things we did is whenever we sold it, we would always deliver a larger unit than the people were expecting. And then we would also include, they had other cleaning products called Kaboom Tub and Tile Cleaner, Orange Glow Furniture Pot. We would put samples of that in there. So it's a kind of a simple concept, and I did it relating to a product. But then you can take that same thing into the services you deliver, where you're exceeding people's expectations of what they perceive they're actually going to get. And that goes a long way to helping you build your brand.
Yeah, I mean, the shock and awe is always the way to go. One of the things that I've started doing with everybody that buys my programs, and it takes an awful lot of time for me to do it based on the volume that we have, but we create a personal video for everybody that buys from us.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And just to let them know, like, hey, we value you made the right decision. And, it's challenging sometimes to find the time to do it, but it makes the difference. It delivers, more of the value. So,
yeah, and there's probably nobody else doing that either. So that makes a big impression on people.
Yeah. I want to take a minute and tell you about Quilla, which is our episode sponsor. And it's an amazing proposal software. They save you time and help you close deals a lot quicker by eliminating that boring old proposal. They allow you to create stunning website proposals with video, image galleries, form. Your prospect can sign and even pay online. It integrates with your project management software, your accounting software, and so much more. From my own experience, if I could go back in time with my agency, I would definitely check out Aquila. So I want you to go to jasonswank.com/proposal software. That's jasonswank.com/proposal software. So what's number 4?
Number 4, always listen to your customer. One of the very first things we do before, we do make a lot of TV commercials. And, people have been doing focus groups for years and years and years. I like to, and we were talking earlier before the interview a little bit about, and I'm telling you some of the companies, we like to work with products that are already in the marketplace. Probably the best thing that you can do before taking on any project is be able to go out and speak to actual customers of that product, people that have taken money out of their pocket, have purchased a product, and sit down. So we videotape these. And so that it's good information. You're going to find out everything that people like about the product, what they don't like about the product. And I don't think people actually do this enough, where they actually talk to their clients' customers and get real authentic feedback. Then you can take what they're telling you and craft that into a marketing message, a sales message, or make changes to proposals, whatever you need to do. But it's something that I've used over and over and over again with all of the different brands we've helped build, and always a big success.
Yeah, no, I like that. But what about to the people that say, like the Steve Jobs of the world, that says, well, they don't know what they don't know. Or like if someone went to Henry Ford, what do you want? They're just going to say, I want a faster horse.
Right.
So what do you say to that?
Well, I'm talking to the people after they've purchased. So after they purchased, and if you could go like after they've purchased an Apple product, or after they've purchased the Ford, and I'm compiling, going back to the second thing, the features versus benefits, listening for what are the benefits that the people are getting from the product, and then using that in the advertising that we do. And I just think that that's the best source of feedback. Now, those guys are obviously geniuses and brilliant and everything, and they're able to come up with ideas and launch them and just have an intuitive feel for the marketplace. But the rest of us that are more mortal, that's how I gather the information.
Gotcha.
If we ever get to that level, maybe we can do that without, getting that feedback.
Gotcha. No, I like... Well, I just wanted you to clarify that, because I know a lot of people may be thinking of that. And I like that you said like of an existing service that you guys are doing. Right. And really, I remember when we were running our agency, we hired a third party person or company to go in and start calling our clients and be like, objectively being like, what do you like? What don't you like? What are you needing? That kind of stuff. And that gave us great insights for all of our marketing. So that's really good. And then what's the next? I think that's number 5, right? That was number 4.
The last one really, again, is using great authentic testimonials. And, you have to kind of be in business a little bit and have some successes. But I've really, I'm on the board of a few companies. One of them's kind of a fast-growing supplement company called Natural Stacks. They make nootropics, brain vitamins, and things. And they came to me one day and they said we're doing a lot of Facebook advertising. It's really surprising. Our best performing ad is a video that a customer sent in to us. And I said, well, what's surprising about that? It's an authentic testimonial of someone that's using your product, and it's very believable. And so that's kind of something that we've always used a lot in direct response advertising, obviously. But, a lot of people make up the testimonials, use actors, and that goes back to listening to the customer and talking to the customers. And we've gotten huge amounts of mileage or response from basically using great testimonials. And so if you're an agency, I don't think a lot of people actually go back to happy clients and get a great testimonial. I know many people do, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't do that. And that's the thing when a consumer or client is looking at your website or whatever. I think that one thing that pushes them over the top in saying yes to you is the fact that you have really great testimonials on there about past work, past service. People like a product, like your service, like your agency, that type of thing. And you can never have too many.
Yeah.
So,
And I think video testimonials is the way to go because anybody can just write and kind of edit, but they actually hear it from an actual person. And especially if you can kind of frame it in the way of going, we were struggling by this before, but we had challenges of thinking, should I actually go with this agency? And then this is the result. I mean, that's more powerful than anything you could ever tell them outside.
absolutely, because you think about a bunch of agency websites, and not everybody, and a lot of them do have great testimonials. But if you could take some of those and you had the CEO of the company that you helped on camera, boy, that video, well, everyone knows how powerful video is. It just takes it to the next level, and that would be a really great way. Even just go back and looking at your website and seeing, calling back and seeing if you can get a video testimonial from some of the testimonials you might already have that would bring things to the next level.
Very cool. Well, awesome, man. This has been great. Is there anything that I did not ask you that we didn't cover that would help out the agency owner listening?
I really agree with what you said earlier about, because it ties into, being unique, positioning, really, and trying to be, and if you try to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to, however that saying goes.
Yep.
But I really like the idea, if your agency's in a position to do it, to be able to laser focus on an area or specialty, and also a segment of the population base that you can help do best. And I think you'll have the most success if you're able to do it that way.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. And you have you said in the pre-show that there's people can download more detail about this.
I have a whole summary, and it goes into a lot more depth than we talked about today, called the 5 Keys to Building a Great Brand. And people can download this if they go to my website, which is Cesari Ignite, Cesari Ignite.com/branding. You can go and download the 5 Keys to Building a Great Brand, and it's be really helpful.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much for coming on the show. And for all of you guys listening and watching, thanks for giving us your most valuable time. Make sure you go implement one of these things to your brand, and I promise you'll be in that much better spot. And if you don't ever want to miss out on any of these shows that we're actually putting out, make sure you go to swank.it and make sure you subscribe, and we will chat with you guys later. Have a swank day.